Okay, it is 10 o'clock on the eastern coast of the US, so we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So the goal of this webinar is to help you all better understand the EE 30 Under 30 program and our organization, the North American Association for Environmental Education, and also to help you navigate the application process or the nomination process if you're nominating someone else, and to show you what we look for in a strong application for EE 30 Under 30. And of course, we'd also like to take some time to answer your questions, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. And this will also be recorded, and we will share the link with you afterwards once the recording is available. Okay, so first, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nina Hamilton, and I am the International Program Specialist at the North American Association for Environmental Education, or NAAEE, and I manage the EE 30 Under 30 program. And I'm joined by my colleague, Melissa. Melissa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Taggart. I direct NAAEE's international programs, working with Nina on 30 Under 30 and the Global Environmental Education Partnership.
Great. And Melissa, in a few minutes, will share a bit more about our organization and how leadership fits into our mission. But first, a few logistics to make sure that you're able to ask questions if you have any. So although all of you are muted, you can type any questions into the chat box by clicking the upper toolbar, and then select whether you want to message all of the panelists, so Melissa and I, or everyone. And feel free to test this out now by letting us know where you're joining us from in the world. We're excited to see who's on today. And you can also send in questions throughout, and we'll do our best to get to them. But since we'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A, we may recommend that you wait until then if you have any bigger questions. And also, if you have any trouble hearing me or Melissa at any point, please feel free to let us know. We really want this to help you. So if you're having any connection, or if you're having trouble hearing us, let us know through the chat. Great. And I see.
Wow, someone from Japan. We have all around the world. This is great.
Great. Well, welcome. Okay.
Many states in the US.
Awesome.
Okay.
So I will now turn it over to Melissa, who will talk about our organization and EE, and yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Nina. Welcome to everyone on the line. I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about NAAEE, the North American Association for Environmental Education. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we mean when we talk about environmental education. So next slide. So who are we? We are the professional association. We're the champion. We're sort of the capacity building backbone organization for the field of environmental education. So we work with educators from the US, Canada, and Mexico, but also many other parts of the world on environmental education. We've been around for about 47 years now. We started originally as an all-volunteer organization, and now we have professional staff in many states around the US and a headquarters office in Washington, DC. Next slide. So what do we mean when we talk about environmental education? Many of you, probably all of you on the line, kind of know what environmental education is, and I just want to kind of really reiterate and ground us back into that. So when we talk about environmental education, we often use EE, the acronym. So when you see that, we need environmental education. And environmental education is all about equipping people with knowledge, skills, and motivation to become stewards of the environment. And it really, though, moves much further beyond sharing knowledge. Many of us, I think any of us who have led environmental education programs know that knowledge doesn't necessarily lead to action or behavior change. There are many other factors. So environmental education is all about equipping people with the tools, the critical thinking skills that they need to make an informed decision about the environment. So it's very much about teaching people how to think rather than what to think. Next slide. And it provides opportunities for people to learn about the environment and the role that we all play in that. Thinking about values and attitudes, cultural differences. And again, it goes well beyond sharing knowledge, thinking about skill building, behavior change. And really, we talk a lot about, although it's environmental education, it is very much about sustainability. So next slide. So when we talk about environmental education, we're also talking about social equity, economic viability, and obviously the environmental piece, the triple bottom line. What does a sustainable world look like? So environmental education has a role to play in the sustainable development goals. So these are the 17 goals that have been adopted by many countries around the world. They are 17 goals that we hope to achieve by the year 2030. Some of you may be very familiar with these goals, some of you may be less familiar, but they're really incredible. So environmental education plays a role in helping to achieve these by making connections between them and by really thinking about the triple bottom line, environment, social, and economic integrity. So next slide. Who is our audience? Our audience is everyone. I think sometimes when we think about environmental education, we have this mental picture of young people learning, but it's well beyond that. So we work, NAAE and our partners, we work with early childhood learners, K through 12, formal school, in the formal school system, outside of school, in the non-formal system where we spend a lot of time, and in communities. We work with retirees, we work with educators and leaders and policymakers. So it really is everyone. And a great thing about us humans is we really never stop learning. So environmental education is for everyone throughout our lives. Next slide. So NAAE, our organization focuses on a number of programs, all designed to build capacity, strengthen networks. We work with a lot of different networks around the world, and really thinking about the role research plays and linking that to practice. So what is the research saying about environmental education, but how does that look like in its application in programs? So I am not going to spend any more time talking about NAAE because we have a wonderful website that you can go and visit. We have a lot of resources there. We try to make many of the things that we produce are just open access. You can access them freely. So I encourage you to peruse the website. But I did want to share one opportunity, next slide, with all of you, and that is our annual international conference. So every year we host a conference in a different location. This year it's going to be in Lexington, Kentucky in the US, and it's going to be held in mid-November or mid-October. So we start with an annual research symposium, again, all about linking research to the practice of environmental education, and then we have a full conference. And I will say it's really just an incredible opportunity for anyone who wants to network and build their professional network. We have about 1,000 to 1,500 environmental education professionals who attend this from around the world. Okay, next slide. And finally, the Global Environmental Education Partnership, I mentioned that very early on when I introduced myself. This is a program that both Nina and I work on. And it is a key program for NAAE. We are the secretariat of the Jeep, we call it. We love our acronyms. It's a partnership between the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Environmental Protection Administration of Taiwan. And through JEEP, we're working to share effective practice. We're working to build capacity and really strengthen leadership. So again, you can learn all that you want to know by going to the website. And on the website, you can also subscribe to a newsletter that we put out quarterly. Next slide. So finally, when we are talking about building leadership, it's a core goal of NAAEE and the JEEP. So NAAEE is working to recognize and build the capacity of the incredibly diverse talent that exists in every community around the globe, including all of you on this webinar today. So this is a photo of our 2018 30 Under 30 winners, and they received scholarships to attend our conference last year that was in Spokane, Washington in the US. And they had an incredible time. They presented about their work, and they were incredibly inspiring as well. So I wish each of you the best of luck in your applications. And I'm going to now turn it over to Nina Hamilton, who runs the 30 Under 30 program. And she's going to talk about the application process. So Nina?
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. Yeah, so as Melissa said, now we'll dive right into EE 30 Under 30. So this program started in 2016 as a US focused program, but since then it has grown to become truly global. And we're really excited to see how far the word has spread about this program. So yes, you can apply from any country around the world. We welcome your applications. And so now we're going into our 4th year, and we have 90 EE 30 Under 30 alumni from 20 countries, ages ranging from 14 years old up to, well, now over 30 for some of our alumni from the past few years. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors who are on the bottom of this page, who have been instrumental through different stages of the program from the beginning up until now. So the goal of EE 30 Under 30 is to build leadership in environmental education. And the way we hope to do this is by recognizing young leaders and also providing opportunities for professional development and networking. And so more specifically, we offer the 30 Under 30 awardees a physical award and overall recognition through our networks and our conference through NAAE and the JEEP. We offer the opportunity to join a growing community of EE leaders, access to professional development opportunities, and as Melissa had mentioned, you also have the opportunity to apply for an all expenses paid trip to attend and present at the NAAE conference. Now, who is eligible for the program? So first, I just want to mention that you can either nominate yourself or someone else. So if for any of the reasons below, you're no longer eligible, we definitely invite you to nominate a colleague who you think would be a great match. And you can also nominate as many people as you'd like. But just be sure to submit a separate application for each person. So first, you must be 30 years old or younger on or as of December 31st, 2019. We've received a few questions about this, and unfortunately that is our cutoff. You must also be using environmental education in your work and demonstrate leadership. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to best communicate this in your application. But I also want to say we really welcome applications from any sector, and our alumni have come from a wide range of disciplines. And we're just making sure that you are using environmental education in your efforts. And as Melissa discussed, environmental education is broader than what we typically think. So keep in mind what Melissa was discussing earlier. And also, you must be able to complete the application in English. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're not able to accept applications in other languages, but we're not necessarily looking for perfect or fluent English. You must be able to complete the application in English and just effectively communicate about your work and about your passions in English. That's what we're looking for. And importantly, as I mentioned before, we accept and welcome nominations from all over the world, not just from the US. And this is a really brief overview of the timeline. The nominations opened, of the timeline for this year's cycle. The nominations opened on April 22nd, and you have until June 3rd to submit a nomination. Then throughout June and July, we'll go through our external review process. And I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. Late August, we will announce the class of 2019. And then just another plug for the conference. The conference is in October of this year. And by joining the EE30 under 30 community, you'd have access to year-round professional development opportunities. So this is probably the part that many of you are waiting for. We'd like to give you some insider tips about what makes a great application for EE30 under 30. First and foremost, concrete examples can really help make your application a strong one. Tell us specifically how you or your nominee, if you're nominating someone else, how you are a leader. Tell us about any initiatives, programs, events, movements, campaigns that you have led, and be clear about your role in those initiatives. And same about your environmental education impact. Be clear about how you use environmental education in your work, or how you use education for sustainability in your work. And we understand that work in this area can take years and years before you see concrete impact. So we don't necessarily need to see statistics or numbers, but we want to hear your story about how your work is promoting a sustainable future. And if you have any supporting articles or links, videos, other materials, there's a place in the application to submit those, and we strongly recommend that you do share whatever you have, because it really helps to paint a clearer picture of your work, and our reviewers enjoy perusing those. And finally, just tell us your story. We want to hear your story. We want to know about your work and your impact, but we also want to know about your motivations and your visions for the future, and who you are as a leader. So be yourself and tell us your story. Yes.
I was just, as you're talking about this, we did get a question, and I thought it was a bit relevant, which is there any preference for nominations by others versus a self-nomination?
That's a really good question. And there isn't. It really is about the strength of your application, and it really is about how you demonstrate your leadership, about your work. It's more about the content of the application than who it comes from.
So maybe that's also something to consider. Think about you versus someone else who can best tell your story of you as a leader for your application, because that's what matters, not who is nominating, but what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great question. And so this is the application link down here. You can also find it on our website. And the deadline is June 3rd. June 3rd at 11:59 p.m. US Eastern Time. And very briefly, to let you know about our review process and how these applications are reviewed. We have a team of reviewers that we bring together from a variety of disciplines and sectors, all have expertise in environmental education. And many of them have reviewed applications for the program for several years. This team of reviewers assesses applications, so that includes both your responses to questions and any other supporting materials you provide. They assess the applications against these criteria here, which are directly linked to the questions in the application. So we hope that we can be as transparent as possible in how your application is assessed, and we hope to do that by making sure that the review process is directly linked to the questions that you are answering in the application. And finally, I'd really encourage you to explore our webpage, the EE 30 under 30 webpage. At this page, you can access the online application. You can also preview the application, which is that bottom link there, where we've put the application into a Word document format. Now, please note, we only applications that are submitted online will be accepted, but we wanted to make the process as acceptable and as easy as possible. So feel free to use that Word document to work through your application, and then you can copy and paste into the online application if that's easier. You can also see how you can help us spread the word. We have some sample social media posts and newsletter blurbs. And I just want to say, we really hope that we can represent environmental education efforts and really exceptional examples of leadership from all over the world. And so we really appreciate your help in helping us spread the word about this program from across all corners of the world. And also on the website, we have biographies of past alumni of the past awardees. So you can go through and read about their inspiration, about their work, and feel very inspired by all of the amazing things that they've done. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions. We'll pause here for a minute or two just to give you some time to submit any other questions and post into the chat box, as some people have been doing. Thank you again so much for joining us. My contact information is on the bottom of the screen there. Feel free to reach out with any questions. And yeah, we'll just pause for a minute and then we'll start going through some questions.
Mm-hmm. Nina, we actually have a couple already that maybe as other people are thinking about their questions, we could start on these.
Yeah, we can go ahead. Yeah. Okay,
so the first one is from Jonathan MacGillivray, and I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but I'm sorry if I didn't. But he asks, and this is a really good question, we've gotten this before, what happens if you get a nomination for someone and an application directly from the nominee? And I can start, Nina, if you want, and then you can chime in.
Go ahead.
So this is a really good question. We do sometimes get self-nominations as well as nominations from other people for the same individual. And we really treat these as one application. So I don't think that there's any weighting of scores. If someone got 5 nominations, it's not going to necessarily make them more likely to become a winner. It's really just looking at the whole picture of this nominee. So if any of you on the line want to self-nominate and have someone also send in additional information about you and you think it will strengthen your application, please do. But you don't have to, because many of our winners are self-nominated and that's it. And they have strong applications. Anything, Nina, that you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that I said perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Olivia Walton, and she asks, I was wondering if you could give some examples of specific professional development opportunities made available to recipients.
Sure. So these opportunities are actually constantly evolving. We're always thinking about what we can offer. We try to get input directly from the alumni as well about what kind of professional development they need in order to become better leaders, in order to make their work even more impactful. Some examples in the past, well, the conference is a huge, that's probably our biggest professional development opportunity, where the scholarship recipients, they were able to present about their work. They made some wonderful personal and professional connections, and they were able to attend workshops and other professional development opportunities at the conference. Aside from the conference, we host occasional webinars, professional development webinars for the alumni community, where we may bring in an expert, or we'll ask one of the alumni to present on a topic that's of professional development interest to everyone, such as fundraising. We did a recent one on fundraising. We also occasionally host networking calls, an opportunity for a group of the alumni to come together and meet each other. Most of these opportunities are remote. So most of these are through Zoom or other remote platforms, because we have such a widely spread group of alumni. So the only really in-person opportunity at the moment that we offer is the conference.
Mm-hmm. Great. We had a couple of questions that came through the Q&A box around the age. Adrian Watson had asked you, if your birthday or if you turn 31 just before the cutoff, is that okay? And I had to say that no, we do have to actually hold firm in that criteria, that you must be 30 up through December 30 or younger up through December 31st, 2019. So, and Christine Chung also asked a similar question. And we do that because as soon as we start making exceptions to that rule, then we're going to have 40 under 40. So we have to hold tight on that deadline, on that date.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've got more questions coming in. Okay, next question from Zachary Ashbrook. I have newspaper photos that are not the best quality, but I think they demonstrate my early involvement in EE well. Would that be something appropriate to add to the application? Nina?
Yeah, so I think examples of things that we've gotten are links to news articles or blogs or organization web pages. And so, yeah, I mean, I think a photo of a newspaper clip out would all right within that. And just try to make it as high resolution or as high quality as you can, so that our reviewers can really read it well. But yeah, really, and the application allows you to, I think it allows you to upload almost any file type, but you can only upload up to 5 supporting materials or documents. So 5 different images or whatever you're wanting to provide. So yeah, so I think that would be a great example of supporting material.
Mm-hmm. Great. We have another question that is, do you have opportunities for people who might be over 30, but are maybe considered a young professional or new to the environmental education field outside of 30 under 30? And I can start, and Nina, please chime in. Yes, the short answer is absolutely. I would say that the best in-person way of professional development and networking is our conference. And we have a young professionals track and initiative and a lot of activities for people who might be new to our conference, because probably the best outcome of our conference tends to be the incredible networking and shared learning that happens in the community building. So if any of you are finding yourselves on this phone call, maybe you're over the cutoff to apply for this program, consider that. I know that is not always economically viable for everyone to attend the conference. But if that's also, so in addition to that, I would encourage you all to go to our website, and right in the center of the web page, there's this portal called EE Pro, and you can register for free to this site, and it's a networking site. We share webinars, resources, job opportunities. We have these discussion groups on a variety of topics, like anything from climate change education to higher education to global EE. And that's just a great way to network virtually. We like to call it the one-stop shop for environmental education, but you can actually connect to other professionals that way and ask questions. Certainly, I know that virtually there's something to be said for in-person connection, but when you can't connect in person, that's a great way to network. And you can also just be in touch with us, because we sometimes will have opportunities come up and we love to share. That's our job, is to share opportunities and resources and provide, networking ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nina, anything to add?
Yeah, just to go off of that, if you join EE Pro and sign up for news updates from NAAE, you will certainly hear about any upcoming opportunities, because leadership, as Melissa said, is a core goal. Building leadership is a core goal for us in the Jeep. So there are often opportunities coming up. So definitely sign up for any updates from us, and you'll hear about any upcoming opportunities.
Great. How many applicants, the question from Emily Thorpe, how many applications do you receive on average?
Yeah, so last year we received about 140 applications. And that's in terms of number of applications. There are a couple of nominees that had multiple applications, but and I'm not sure about previous years. Melissa, maybe you know.
I say that again. Sorry.
I'm not sure about previous years, but
it's been like 120, 130 in previous years, something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy decision because there's so many wonderful applicants.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I am not seeing any questions right now.
There's some in the chat.
Oh, there are. Okay, let's see. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Christine asked, does previewing the application mean that one cannot save the application as one is working on it? So if you go to preview the application on the EE 30 under 30 webpage, you click that link, preview the application, that will actually download a Word document of all of the application questions. So it's just another way that you can work on or fill out the application offline. For example, if you have poor internet connection or if you're going to be traveling or whatnot, it's just another way for you to work on the application. But you will have to submit those responses through the online application. And I believe on the online application, you can go in and start working on it, and then you can save it and leave it and go back in. So that's another option as well.
So here's another one from Grace Scarcella. Do successful candidates meet these criteria more in their professional life or their personal life?
That's a really good question. And I would say both, just mainly because some of their alumni and many of the nominees are pretty young. You know, they're in high school or even college or even younger. And so they haven't really started a professional career in the traditional sense. And so it really depends. It's really just about how and where you are using environmental education, if it's in your professional, if it's in your personal life, and however you would define that. But it's pretty open.
Yeah. Great. And then there was a question about not seeing all the question. That's a good one. We have people who are submitting questions both in the chat box, and then there's also a Q&A bar. So if you don't see the questions appearing in the chat box, they're in the Q&A. So I have two question things open on my desktop, looking at both. So here's another question from Megan Kruger. Other than the conference, are there any other required events that must be attended? And I will say, in response to that, the conference actually isn't a mandatory required event to attend. We select some awardees to attend the conference, and people can apply for scholarships, but that is not a mandatory event, and there are no other required events. Are there, Nina? I'm not missing anything, am I?
No, we may do like a welcome webinar to welcome and orient the awardees, but there aren't any in-person or remote required events, but we would of course encourage all of our alumni to participate in as many of the professional development opportunities that we offer as they can.
Yeah. This is a question from Tommy Mackey. For self-applicant, should we write in the first person on the application?
That's a good question. And sure, I don't think there's any preference.
Yeah. I don't know that it matters either way. I think it might matter most how you feel comfortable writing.
Right, exactly.
And this is a question from Olivia Walton. Is there any way that you support or encourage the diversity of applicants or award recipients? That's a really good question. I'll start. And I know you probably have.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, you really work hard on this. I know that. Yes, we do. And I think, this program, when it first started, was in the US only, and we expanded, as Nina mentioned, to be more global. And NAAEE is increasingly more global. So we are trying to make a lot of connections in different countries and in different networks to try to encourage applications from different countries. We're also looking we advertise this program in maybe some less usual environmental education spots that we know about, maybe people working more in, around social equity or public health or things like that. We're really trying to do that as much as possible to get a diversity of applicants because environmental education is so broad, you can find it in so many different sectors. And that's always a work in progress. And it's the same for the award recipients. So we have an external review process where 3 people review each application, as Nina mentioned. And then we also, in the very end, we are looking to have a class that really embraces the diversity of environmental education. And so we look at that for that final 30. So Nina, anything to add?
Christine had another question kind of in that vein. Are there any preferences made for diversity for people of color? So should that be explicitly?
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to go along with what Melissa is saying. We've been really trying to make the application process and our outreach as inclusive and accessible as possible. And so that pertains to reaching global audiences, but also wanting to reflect the diversity of the field here with even within the U.S. and again all over the world. So where was I going with that? Yeah, but I mean, there's no place in the application where we explicitly ask for that. But I mean, but like Melissa said, we really want to also reach and encourage nominations from folks that are working with the social equity lens or working outside of kind of the traditional environmental education field or approach. And so definitely if you're working in those areas, definitely mention that and communicate that that's part of your work and part of your passion and motivation. Because we would love to.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Zachary asked if we don't get awarded this year, can we apply again next year? And yes, you can continue. You can continue applying up until you're no longer eligible. So yes, please do. If you don't get it this year, please do consider sending an application next year. Because as we mentioned, we get a lot of applications and it's such a hard decision. Yeah, we definitely encourage.
Yes. Don't be daunted if you're not awarded this year, and please try again.
Yeah.
Would a CV resume be a relevant document to include in the application with the additional links? This is from Abby Bessinger.
Yeah, and I would say, sure. It's really whatever you want to share that helps tell your story and your impact and what helps show your leadership.
Yeah.
I will say, we want to see more than just a list of your accomplishments, or we want, like I said earlier, we want to hear your story. So a CV or resume is great. It's perfectly fine, but do make sure that you can flesh it out and you can tell us your story in the application itself and be complementing that with your CV or resume.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. We can conclude it here. And again, feel free to reach out with any other questions. And you'll be hearing from me shortly with the follow-up to the webinar. So
great.
Thank you again for joining us.
Yep. Thank you. And thank you, Nina.
And all the best of luck with your applications. We really look forward to seeing them.
Yep.
All right. Bye, everyone.